Hey,
Hello.
can you hear me? Okay, you can't hear me. All right, I'm gonna do a
Yes, I can.
quick show intro. Hey everyone, this is Ken, and this is actually our VP of Partnerships, Laura. And today on Tech Entrepreneur Office Hours, we're going to go over what founders need to know before starting up. I already see that we have two people looking at us, which is super awesome, on Facebook and YouTube, actually. Cool, cool. And as you all know, I'm Ken Vermeil. I'm the founder of Vermilion Sky. We help startups build, launch, and grow their tech products. We're most likely the best agency that has ever been created. And a new addition to our team is Laura, and she's
Hello.
going to do a super awesome intro, and then we're going to jump right into it.
Yes. So I'm Laura. I'm VP of Partnerships. So essentially, your first point of contact, as you partner with Vermilion, as everyone should. And my background is very heavy in the super, super early stage sort of startup world, right? So a lot of people think about tech startups and they're like, Twitter and Facebook and, just like snacks and, you know what I mean? You like that kind of crazy startup. No, 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 no. I worked at that startup where you like don't get paid and you like, are working at their apartment. And yeah, that's the kind of startups that I've worked at, right? But I love entrepreneurship. I find it so inspiring. What I've kind of moved into since I've been doing this long enough is consulting a lot with other founders, right? So consulted for a long time. I mentor founders for a number of accelerator programs. And now work with Ken also to work with founders, like you said, to help build and grow their startups.
Yeah, and it's super exciting to see somebody say, "Look, I have this really cool, awesome idea," and then they put it on paper. We then build it, and it's out there, and they're making money. And I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, we actually pulled this off!"
Oh yeah,
Like,
I
when
know.
it's
People are so
actually,
creative. I feel like I'm always at the like cutting edge of technology because actually what you and I get to see is all this sort of tech stuff before it even hits the rest of the world, right? So like all the
yeah,
different ideas we hear and everything that's like in the works because obviously building a product and growing the business takes a couple of years. It takes a long time.
yeah,
So I feel like I'm already ahead of the game just doing what we do.
yeah. I mean, it's weird when you see this janky, because usually the first version of the product is just something it's there. You know what it has to do.
It
And then
is.
you see, you work with a founder, and then they don't, have employees. They have nothing.
Yeah.
They're still probably working at a job
Mhm.
to make income, and
Yeah.
then a couple of years down the line, they're just like, yeah, I bought a house. I'm going on vacation, and
Totally.
I'm doing this. Yeah, we're hiring people, and it's really fun to see that transition of going from one stage in life
Yeah.
to another.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it'll happen before you know it. I mean, I think it's the most exciting time whenever you've sat there and you build something and then suddenly you have people really engaged, you have all these customers on board and you're like, oh my God, people are actually, really excited about what I'm doing here. I love that moment.
Yeah. So let's jump into so as usual, these founders are everybody's a founder. Everybody has an interesting app idea. Everybody wants to build something, even if they don't know that they want to do it, which is
Yeah.
what I always say. So let's talk about some of the things that they need to know, like right before, like an awesome idea comes into their head. What do you think are some of like the top things that they have to know before even starting?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and this is, I guess, a good moment to kind of like set expectations, right? So, and it's funny because working in app development, I can't tell you how much I agree that everyone has an app idea. Because if you're at a dinner party, if you're if you're anywhere, if you're at Starbucks and someone hears you work in app development, you're being pitched an app idea. They want to know what you think about their app idea. So I've got a lot of that.
That's why I always say I like
I know, big
like
bar. I
like
know.
being Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it really easy to network.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people need to understand that this is going to be a long road, to greatness. You know what I mean? Like it is going to take a number of years before you're Mark Zuckerberg, So I think people are ready for it to kind of be like, all right, great. So then you're going to build it now and then it's all going to work, right? And just understand that like you are going to have to push through a lot of barriers. You know what I mean? You're going to have to learn how to pivot. You're like, if you really want to, see success, you better be really committed to it working because, some people that I guess aren't necessarily ready for that will kind of hit their first barrier and drop whatever's going on. You know what I mean? Like, app isn't functioning correctly. And, I've been trying to fundraise for 3 months and I haven't heard anything and I'm not, I can't move forward. It's not working, If you really want to see it work, you're going to have to be ready to not take no for an answer kind of.
Yeah.
So I think that is something, just be ready to take on that, that project and that responsibility and that, for a number of years too. It is a time suck.
Yeah. I mean, essentially what you're saying is it's not a get rich quick scheme, which I guess in the early 2000s, everybody thought that, hey, I'm going to make an app and then I'm going to have $1 billion in my checking accounts on Thursday. And that's just not how it works, because you have to actually build a product that solves a problem. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of products, the measurement app. You could measure like distances on a wall, or these apps to like do like little cool things, but people don't. I guess one of the misconceptions as a founder is if you build a tool, the tool needs to make you money. Even if you're building a tool that optimizes advertising, right?
Sure.
Where you use advertising as the revenue model, you still have to convince people to consistently use your application so that when it's actually time for you to, at the end of the month, you make some type of income.
Sure.
But while you're doing that, you still have to push your application. You still have to do marketing. And even if you don't have a budget for marketing, there's ways. There's like grassroots. Like I've seen people
tons of ways. I feel like there's tons of ways to organically grow a product. Now, obviously, like if you're talking about fundraising, right? Absolutely put some budget in there for marketing and for operations and all that good stuff, right? But there's tons of organic ways to push your app. And the other thing that, I think some people who maybe, obviously if they're new to the game, as you're figuring out your monetization strategies, they really should, first of all, there should be more than one. And second of all, they should be as diverse as possible. You know what I mean? So like maybe some is advertising to where the monetization kind of relies on the amount of time your users spend in the app, right? Yeah. Maybe you are sort of like a one-time app fee, right? So that is based on installs, right? So like almost monetizing based on different user behaviors so that you can really figure out which monetization strategy is going to be most lucrative for you.
Well, so let's say, I'm a new entrepreneur. How do I choose like a super awesome monetization strategy that works? Like, is there like a formula? Is there like a spreadsheet that you use? Like, how do you determine that?
Yeah, I hear you. Because exactly, I'm like kind of alluding to all these different ways. There's a number of different ways. I think it really comes to putting yourself, I guess, in the feet of the user. You know what I mean? Like really understanding where the user comes from and choosing a monetization strategy that will, I guess, deter users the least, right? So like, are you building a product that people absolutely will pay $1.99 in the app store for before they even see the app? You know what I mean? Like if whatever your concept is, I guess, is enticing enough that you think your users, wow, will do that, then awesome. You know what I mean? If you think they need to see the app first and then you do in-app purchases, maybe that's the way that you're going to do that. If you don't think users are going to pay for it at all, then you throw advertising on there. So really, it sort of depends on like how meaty is the value that you're bringing to your users.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when it comes to, part of it does come with like what your value proposition is. So if your app does a cool thing, right? Mm-hmm. You kind of have to determine whether or not people are willing to pay for that cool thing. And whether or not that cool thing would either save them money or, make them feel good. Now let's take an example like TikTok, for example. TikTok doesn't necessarily solve a problem other than I have I'm waiting on a line and I'm bored and I don't want to talk to anybody around me, so I'm gonna watch funny TikToks, right?
Right.
But it still provides a type of value proposition in where it might seem menial at first, but it still solves a problem, even if the user doesn't even know that they're having that problem. And I actually don't know what is TikTok's monetization strategy.
I actually was just wondering that. I guess you're too old, Ken.
No, but I know. Oh no, they do have apps right now. So they have ads right now. They're like really pushing. Even like, in my email box right now, I get an email from them every day saying, "Hey, advertise on TikTok."
I know. I do too.
Yeah, so they are doing advertising.
Instagram, right? So Instagram is advertising driven, right?
Yes.
Because Instagram isn't really a necessity. Now, if you think about an app like ZocDoc, for example, right, where you find medical professionals, as a user, like I guess you and I, we don't pay for ZocDoc because we can very easily go on Yelp. You know what I mean? We can very easily Google. Now, the doctor side does pay because the value that they bring is money, right? You know what I mean? People find them on that platform. So, by nature, right, they'll get more patients or whatever it is. So then it makes sense for the doctor side of that to be paid and the user side of that to be not paid. Yeah. So I guess that's an example of like, okay, so like how much is this a necessity for your user? AKA like how should you be monetizing?
Oh yeah. I mean the doctors definitely, for them it's just lead generation.
Totally.
They're like, okay, I accept these insurances, and then all of a sudden I'm starting to get business. And most likely, and one of the things that new founders need to realize when it comes to pricing, your solution needs to be, if people are directly paying for it to get a result, what they pay for needs to be a magnitude of times less than what they get. So I'm pretty sure, I don't know what ZocDoc's pricing is, but let's say it's like $200.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm paying $200, I'm going to want to get like at least $1,000 or $2,000 back from the product, which is why ZocDoc is successful. Now, when it comes to the doctors with insurance, we don't necessarily know the pricing, but what we do know is that the other day when I needed a dentist, I was able to hop on and instantly find a dentist, and they made a whole bunch of money.
Yeah.
A whole lot.
No, exactly.
So let's take a step back. So far we went over, founders definitely need to know that it's going to be a long process. It's a long road. There's no get rich quick scheme here. It's essentially only you have to put in the work. If you don't put in the work, you don't get anything out of it. Second thing is you really have to diversify your monetization strategy. Mm-hmm. And I'd even say that you'd have to test different types of monetization strategies so that you can be successful, because there are monthly costs when you're building an application, and these costs can go up and down depending on what you're doing.
Right. And if you do the research, right, if you're looking at your competitors, then I think there is a lot to be said there, right? So the new app that everyone's talking about is Quibi, right? If you've seen that, which is like content, right? Now that's paid automatically because so is Netflix and so is HBO. And so users understand that, okay, streaming services automatically cost money. Like I don't get that for free, So like, and they came straight out the gates whenever they launched with that monetization strategy, because in their industry, it makes sense. So, I think if you do the research, a lot will be uncovered there.
Oh, that's true. That's definitely true. So what else? So I'm trying to think, what else do you think founders need to really know? Yeah.
So something I guess that I had trouble with, I guess, or I've seen people have trouble with, is how much should you have planned before you start moving? Right. And there is that in between, right? And sometimes it's a hard call where, of course there should be a lot of planning that goes into this before you hit the ground running. You know what I mean? You need obviously a business model. You need a launch strategy. You need to understand how you're going to monetize, how you're going to best market the app. You need to identify the problem you're solving, obviously, and from that, who your sort of user personas are, right? So really qualifying exactly who this person is, right? So a lot of planning needs to go into it. However, at some point, and I actually had investors tell me, once you have about 70% planned, just start moving, because it's never going to be 100.
Yeah, it's not.
It's never going to be 100%. You know what I mean? Also, because if it's 100%, by the way, your product isn't out in the market yet. So then, like the other 30% is probably all conjecture, right? You know what I mean? You're just kind of making things up at that point, So like about 70% you have planned out. Start going, start moving, just do it.
Yeah, because even what I found is that in the past we would work with people who did have 100% of everything planned, and day one of design, everything goes out the window, and now. Or day one of not even design testing with like a real audience.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't get it, or I don't like it, or it's not really a problem. Then you have to pivot. You have to. Well, you don't give up there because that's just
not.
stage one. Anything that you plan, your initial app idea is never going to be exactly what you think it is.
Absolutely.
What I know for a fact is that Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of them. Twitter was supposed to be a texting service in where you could just text out what you're doing, and other people who are like in your phone book or network would just see that text. Twitter has now morphed into something
completely different.
Yeah, completely different.
That's a different beast, yeah.
Yeah, and so there is I guess it's also important to know that your idea will transform radically the moment that it hits the market.
Mm-hmm.
If it does hit the market, you'll learn. Oh, that's slack. When it does hit the market, you'll learn that people act differently than what you would think, and you actually have to respond to the way that they act. You have to say, okay, they're doing this, or people want this, or people say that they want X feature, but they're paying for Y feature.
Yeah.
To switch over, and I mean, business, because it's a business, you have to move over and focus on Y feature because that's what brings in the money. Yeah,
I've seen founders really struggle and, for lack of a better, I guess, fail for lack of a better word. But it's like, follow the data. And a lot. I think to be an entrepreneur takes a very bold, very confident personality, and I fully respect that. But if it turns into hard-headedness and you're not listening to your user feedback and you're not listening to your advisors and if you're not seeking out mentorship, that's going to be to your detriment, honestly. Yeah. So I think when it comes to your entire business strategy, like. Listen to take in all the data possible, make it a data-driven approach, respond to the data. Obviously, anytime you build, a product, right, an app or a website, there's data analytics integrated in there for a reason. Also, and it can show you a lot. And you should be ready to pivot and to change along with it, right? I've heard people say all the time that investors invest in founders, not products. Knowing that they need to invest in the type of person that is going to pivot, that are going to push through those hurdles, et cetera, So, obviously they want to see a decent app idea or whatever it is too. But I think they know that, it can change and it can pivot and your acquisition strategy can change and all types of things. Right?
Oh, yeah. Definitely so one thing that founders also need to understand if you're going to get funding, from an investor's standpoint, you have to understand that they have a portfolio. And in their portfolio, there are companies that make money and companies that don't make money.
Yeah.
You just have to convince them, beyond a reasonable doubt, that your company will make them money. And you could do that by one, having a nice advisory team. So saying, hey, look, this person, this person's mentoring me. I have a call with them every week. Here's my team. They're a super awesome development team, and they're able to actually build excellent technology and do awesome UI UX. And their name is Vermilion Sky. And there's a lot of stuff that you could do to convince them that you'll make money, and also getting an advisory board, or a quote unquote advisory board, or just people who will just kind of vouch for you. Having all those things in place really does a lot, not only, just to give you clout, but you're going to get a lot of really good nuggets from those people, especially if they've worked in your industry before, because they kind of know the market. They know how customers will react. They know what customers have done in the past. They also have some insight as to the products that are around the industry. And if you're able to show them like, hey, look, we're going after this specific market share, and here's the problems that we're solving, and people like us. We have great branding. It definitely helps, I guess, shorten the amount of learning that's required to achieve success.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, prepare as much as you possibly can. And also there's ways to, I've seen a lot of people do this, which I find really creative. Because what a lot of investors want to see is they're like, well, I want to see traction. I want to make sure that, people are on board with your idea. You're saying people are going to be interested in this. I'm not sure, so I need proof of that before I do anything. Now you don't have a product yet, right? Because you don't have funding.
Yeah.
And you're sitting here like, this is a catch-22. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of people do really creative stuff where they will do, I think it was a women's lingerie brand that did like a giveaway on Facebook if people signed up for a wait list or something. You know what I mean? So, you get a wait list sign up, you get social media validation, like things of that nature to say, I have this many followers, I have this many people waiting for the app to drop, I have like this wait list going, I have, like that type of attention, then you can kind of prove like people are interested in this, want this to happen, these are my future prospective users kind of thing. So people have gotten really creative on proving that it's viable, in the market viability people talk about all the time. You can really prove that honestly before you have a product, if that's what your investor really needs to see.
Oh yeah, definitely. We probably need to do this as another like podcast episode. There's a way to actually validate your idea, get potential customers, and have a solid wait list for less than $1,000.
Oh, yeah.
Literally just building a landing page, putting some text, having a button that says sign up for our waiting list, and then putting a little bit of money towards ads. As long as you know, you do have to know who your market is first.
Yes.
Because then if you don't, then it doesn't work. But that's probably something that we'll definitely do in the future, because there's a lot of value in just doing that activity. Because if you do have 1,000 people on your wait list and your product is $100, then that's a lot of potential money that an investor will say, we can work with this. Here's $20,000.
Oh, yeah, I put $500 towards social media ads that led to a wait list, essentially, just a quick type form, whatever, name, email, address. You're on the wait list, and I got 1,800 people. In 2 months. It was amazing.
and now take that same thing. Now you launch your application. You put $1,000 towards the launch. You have a super excellent onboarding process. You use the kind of UX UI best practices, and now you have real paying customers for not a lot of money, really.
And the beauty in that too is that, right, you keep that budget low at the very beginning, and then you've tested what does your audience respond to, right? So maybe you tested 2 different visuals, and you're like, okay, so this one really won out. Or you test because social media advertising, at least, you can choose interests that you think align with people that would be interested, and then you're testing those audiences. So by the time your product is out and you're actually putting a lot more money towards the advertising, you've already tested exactly what's most optimal for you to put money towards. You know what I mean? So that's really how the marketing budget should scale, anyways.
And you can continue to build upon that, create lookalike audiences, target the right people, scale, make money, all that good stuff, which is great.
Absolutely. I think a huge barrier to entry as a founder is the funding. The fundraising thing, finding angel investors. And it's hard. I mean, it's hard already, right? And, I have been in this startup industry for a long time. So, I have warm intros and I can attest it's still difficult. So, if you're coming from, a bit outside the industry, I can imagine how difficult that is, honestly. I've also seen people take really horrible deals, like really, really bad deals, really bad.
20,000. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're like, here's 30% of my company. Like, what?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I've seen some rough and that paperwork signed, and then it's a done deal, you know. And investors, are kind of in the business of looking out for themselves a bit in a way, you know what I mean? So they're your partners, but also, know that they have their own interest in mind as you're doing that negotiation piece. I have personally stalled my own projects by months because I only had bad investor deals offered to me, and I was like, I'm not doing that. So it's not worth it. You will get investment, like you will find it. So taking that horrible deal is just, it's not worth it at all. So I would just keep on pushing for what a good, and it's hard to tell what a good deal is, and that's a whole nother podcast too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that you should give up. So there's a lot of things that you could do when it comes to, so when people, there's like money funding, like we need money to build this product. And then there's equity funding, which is I need people to work on certain parts of the product to get to where we need to be. Both are a little bit more difficult now because of the current startup culture, which is just like, yeah, work for us for 4 years, you'll get 1,000 stock options because we're going to be the next unicorn, when in fact nobody can guarantee that. Even the best, even if you're like ex-Google, ex-Uber, like if you're a whole bunch of ex-employees from these companies, there's no guarantee that, unless you're like employee 8 or employee 9, right? Usually these companies are like employee 1,018, 1,004. And I'm not saying that these companies are bad. I love these companies. I use them all the time, especially Uber. Especially Uber. But what I am saying is that there's no guarantee, right? Because it's not about who's building the product. It's more about who understands the users that the product is tailored towards, which I think is the most important thing as a founder. Your users and user feedback and understanding how your users interact with your product, that is the most important thing that you can know. Because once you launch your product, if it starts gaining success, somebody's going to try it and duplicate that success. Especially if you're bringing in a lot of money, especially if you're bringing in a lot of funding, all that stuff, somebody's going to try to duplicate it. And usually the only differentiation between the first in market and the person that comes right behind you or right behind the product is the person who really has a deep understanding of the customer, which is why MySpace is where it's right now and Facebook is where it is at this point.
It's true. It's true. And there is market share, right? So like I always explain to people, like Uber and Lyft both exist, don't they? So, if you see something in the market that's, pretty similar to what you want to do, but it's not quite like, let's say it's you're your own user essentially, right? You did this idea because you sat there and you're like, this is an annoying process that I have to go through. I want to make this better. Or something like that. There is a way to do it better. And there is a way to like tackle that, grab some market share from whatever's going on. So I wouldn't necessarily be completely turned off by something like if you just start doing the competitor research and you're like, oh, this already exists. Well, if it doesn't exist that well and you can do it better, that's still a huge opportunity.
It is. Because I always tell people like how many different types of shirts exist. There are shirts everywhere. There are different types of shirts. There are long sleeve shirts, V-necks, all of these types of shirts. Every year, somebody goes out and they create a new type of shirt, and then they market it to you on Instagram for whether or not you'll buy it. But I think we covered most of the core things that founders need to know. Yeah. And as always, we're here every Friday, except for the past couple of Fridays. But we're back every Friday. We'll be interviewing more founders, entrepreneurs, people who are in the industry, mainly so that we can allow people to really get the gist of being a tech founder, understanding the different things that might come up, and ensuring that everybody has the best opportunity to become successful. Laura, you've been excellent. Thank you again for your time. And as usual, please email us, send us hi, kudos. There might have been chats here. I did not see them. So I will be looking at the chats later on. And if you have said something or if you send us an email, I'll always get back to you. And thanks for watching, everyone.
All right. See you.
All right. Take care, guys.